Okay, so I've got just under a week until testing at Silverstone on Silverstone National, and then that's next Friday, and then on Sunday is I think it's Saturday. I don't know if it's Saturday or Sunday. I'll have to look it up. It's one of those two. We've got our first race. I think it's Sunday because on Saturday I think there's the trophy, what they call the sprint race and the coupe race, which I'm not going to do. So I've just come back from Australia, seeing my son, and we actually got back at about 7 a.m. this morning, and it's 4 in the afternoon on Saturday, the Saturday before the race. We're a week away from the race. And after travelling 28, 29 hours non-stop, I'm feeling pretty jaded, but I thought I'd come out here and try and stay awake until it gets to a reasonable time in the evening before I finally crash. So I thought I'd make a list of the things I've got to do. So I want to change the oil and change the oil filter. I've done 2 track sessions on this present lot of oil. So I'm going to change the oil and the filter. I'm going to change the brake fluid because at the last test, the pedal started to go soft, and I'm a bit concerned. I was running standard .4 brake fluid, and I think I might be cooking it. So I bought some of this stuff, RBF 660 racing brake fluid. Believe it or not, you can buy it on Amazon, which is where I got it from. So I'm going to change all the brake fluid, which I haven't checked the colour of this new brake fluid. I'm hoping that it's a different colour from the existing, because I've debated just pumping it all out, all the fluid that's in there, and then putting fresh in. But I don't think that's such a good idea because I'm just going to end up with endless airlocks, I think, or a lot of bleeding to be done. So what I want to do is I'm going to suck as much of the existing fluid out of the reservoir as I can. Then I'm going to put the new stuff in, and I'm going to try and flush the system through with the new stuff. And then I'll have to just chuck away everything that comes out of the bleed nipples. So that's my plan for the brake fluid. I've debated endlessly, procrastinated almost, about removing the battery box. And I've decided I am going to remove it. I can go into the pros and cons of it, but I think I've said it all before, so I won't do it again. But basically, I've decided that the weight saving's worth it. So I'm going to remove the battery box. And then the other thing I've got to do is put stickers on in place of the number plates. So I'll show you the stickers if I can just find them. Hang on a minute. So what we have to do is replace the number plate with a sponsor sticker, Laser Tools. So what I need to do is I need to get a blank acrylic plate, which I think I can order and get delivered fairly quickly, and then stick these stickers on, and then I'll just unscrew the existing number plate and put the new one on. Which actually brings me onto a subject that I've also been debating. Do I really want to keep this as a road legal car? Because the MOT is coming up at the end of May. I've got no doubt that it'll pass the MOT, except for one particular problem, which is that I've forgotten that I haven't got a horn push. So I'm going to have to figure out something to do with that. But I think that's pretty easy for me to bodge something to get it through the MOT. But there's the MOT, then there's another lot of tax, another lot of insurance. I am running it around the streets a bit when I make a change and I want to test things. So sort of a lightweight shakedown run, if you like. And so maybe I should keep it road legal for that reason. We'll do this. I'm going to do it in the order I've got here. Oh, actually, I'm not, because I haven't got the oil. I haven't got the filter. I can easily get the oil, but I need to go down to Euro Car Parts. Halfords don't have any filters in stock, unfortunately, and I'd have to wait several days. So I'll probably get the oil and the filter on Monday. I've got the brake fluid, so I'm going to do that first. Removing the battery box, I've got to make up a plate that covers over the hole that it'll leave. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So this is what I'm going to remove, this plastic box that contained the battery. It's just held in by, about 9 nuts that are onto studs that are welded onto the actual chassis. Pretty easy to get out. Oh, there's a few things underneath I've got to unscrew as well, but it's pretty easy to get out. Now, the thing I've got to do then is make up a plate to go over the top. Luckily, I did buy some suitable aluminium sheet to do this, because I was going to do this in the first place, and then I talked myself out of it, and now I've talked myself back into it, so I'm going to do that. And the only other thing I did consider doing is... a tip I've been given is that the doors contain some additional strengthening. So let's just talk about that for a second. So apparently inside the door, there's a bar structure that goes across, and it weighs, I don't know, I believe it weighs about 1 kilo or 1.5 kilos, and there's one in every door. And the tip I've been given is remove them out of all of the doors except for the driver door, because of the additional protection. Now, if I do that, I'm going to have to cut. You can't pull these studs out. I've tried, so I'm going to have to cut them all, which means that I'm going to have to get all new studs. That doesn't bother me too much, but bearing in mind I've only effectively got five days to sort all of this out. If I have any problems getting the studs, then I won't be able to get the door panels back on, and if I don't put the door cards on, it won't pass scrutineering. So I've decided I'm just going to leave that. I can't risk going down that road right now. I'll do that after this first meeting, this first race. So I'm going to do that in the future. And the other thing that sort of convinced me not to race into this straight away is because if I'm going to start pulling all the innards out of the doors, I may as well put the plexiglass. There's a plexiglass option now for the windows, or polycarbonate. Plastic or whatever they call it. You can get this panel and this panel. In fact, you can get a full set for the rear of the car. So that's four pieces, 1, 2, and then the same the other side. And it's 65 quid, I think it is. So I think if I'm going to start pulling the door around, I may as well go that route as well. Now, the reason they introduced the plexiglass option was because that also allows you to put an air scoop in, and a lot of people were finding that it was getting really hot in the cars last year. So the air scoop is like a way to provide ventilation into the car. I'm not quite sure how that works. I must confess, and so one of the advantages of going to the first meeting is I'll be able to see what everybody else has done with their cars to install these plastic windows. So another good reason not to mess around with the innards of the door at this stage if I'm going to take that option. I think other than that, I'm good. Everything else, I don't really want to do anything else. I'm not going to do anything else to the suspension. I've done the alignment. I might check the alignment again because I don't think I've checked it since I returned from the last test at Brands Hatch. So I'll probably check the alignment. But yeah, I think I'm good to go. Oh, the other thing is, I want another set of wheels and tyres. So, as you can see, I've got a couple of wheels and tyres there. I've ordered 4 new tyres. Unfortunately, the delivery of them all got messed up with me disappearing off to Australia. And I don't know if I'm going to get the tyres in time. And at the moment, I don't have any wheels to install them on. But I think I know where I can get 4 wheels. So I'm going to go to, it's a local breaker that specialises in BMWs. I'm going to go down to the breakers on Monday morning and see if I can get the wheels. And then hopefully the tyres will turn up some point next week. I'll get them put onto the wheels and that will give me another set of tyres. I'm only really worried about the tyres. I'm planning to run these ones because they're not very scrubbed, these existing tyres. So I'm planning to run these, but if it rains, I would like a fresh set of tyres. So just to cover all eventualities. Yeah, that's it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll try and record some steps in me doing this as I go along. It's now Sunday morning and I've removed, you can see I've sucked out as much of the old brake fluid as I can out of the reservoir. I can't find a way of removing this basket thing. I don't think there is a way of doing it. So I'm just going to put the new brake fluid in on top. There isn't that much left in the reservoir looking at the side of it, so it shouldn't be such a problem. I'm hoping that I will be able to see the new fluid coming through. So you can see this on the left is the high temperature racing brake fluid versus the standard .4 stuff. So it does seem to be slightly darker, though I can't help thinking that when I first put this .4 stuff in, it was lighter than that, so it may have darkened with sort of contaminants and things. But hopefully I'll be able to see the difference. I mean, actually, when you get the depth there, you can see there's not much difference, is there? So it could be a bit of a challenge, but we'll see how we get on. I'm going to be using one of these suction brake bleeders. I've never used one before, so I'm just reading the instructions and setting it up. But so instead of using the foot pedal to pump the fluid through, you basically suck it through with this thing, and it goes into this reservoir as it comes out of the bleed nipple. So that should be interesting, trying that. It's also got some sort of capability for testing the vacuum. I take it it's the servo assistance on your brake, but I won't be doing any of that. So it's got other instructions here for brake bleeding. It was a pretty cheap kit. I think it costs somewhere between £15 and £20. I think it was. I just bought it off of. I think I bought it off of eBay, and I mean it seems reasonable quality, so should be good. Right, so I've set the thing up so you can see you get this little reservoir pipe from the top where it's just sucking air through this pipe into the hand pump, which I already pumped, and you can see it's holding 10, whatever they are, 10 inches of mercury vacuum, I think that is. Yeah, 10 inches of mercury. And then the other side, which has got this little pipe inside this reservoir, that's where it's going to suck the fluid into there. Then on the nipple itself, you put this adapter thing, and then you apply the vacuum and then crack open the bleed nipple to allow the fluid to flow through. I've filled up the reservoir. So far, I think it's taken about half a litre to fill it, which is slightly worrying because I've only got 4 litres of fluid. I hope I've got enough. Yeah, that's a bit worrying. Anyway, the only criticism I've got so far with this bleed kit is that if I didn't use this, which is one of the many flipping bush removal parts that I've got, this would just probably tip on its side and start sucking fluid up into the pump. So it would have been good if the box that it came in had a little receptacle that you could jam this in and then put the box on the floor, but it hasn't got that. So anyway, so far so good. I guess next thing to try is actually cracking open the nipple. So I've loosened the nipple slightly and then done it back up with a socket wrench. So now I'll try and do this while the video's running. Okay, the fluid started to flow. Well, I don't know if that air's, not sure where that air's coming from, but there's a flipping lot of it. That's very worrying. Anyway, it's doing the job. So if we give that another squeeze. So get it up to 10 again. Well, I'm slightly worrying about all those air bubbles, because if that's if that's leaking in around from the kit, how the heck am I going to tell when I've bled all the air out of the system? That's not going to work too well, is it? Yeah, that must be a solid flow of fluid, I think. I can't tell if it's just fluid running down the outside of the tube or if it's a solid flow. I think it's a solid flow because the air bubbles now are floating in the flow, so that must be just a solid flow of fluid. Well, quite honestly, if I had that much air in the system that seemed to be implying, no wonder I had a flipping soft pedal. There's probably nothing to do with the brake temperature at all. Anyway, I'm going to crack on and replace the fluid. But yeah, that's a bit concerning. Let's go and check the fluid level again in the reservoir. I'm going to cut to the chase here. I carried on with this, trying to see if I could get it to work correctly with the vacuum thing. But as I moved to each wheel, I had the same problem. I seemed to get loads of air. There's no way I've got that much air in that brake system, because the pedal would be on the floor if I had. So eventually I just gave up with it and reverted back to my old system, which is just a pipe, pumping into a bottle, and it's got a non-return valve in it, and that worked absolutely fine. So not very successful with this particular type of bleed kit, and in fact I've even filled out the return form and I'm going to send it back because I'll never use it again. I just don't think it's trustworthy. It's too difficult to use. Okay, so back to the old system. So rubber pipe onto the bleed nipple, goes into this bottle, and the bottle has a non-return valve on the bottom of the pipe. So now all I have to do is sit in the car and pump the brake and just keep an eye on the fluid level in the reservoir. Okay, so I've put about, more than half a litre. When I said earlier that I've bought 5 litres or 4 litres, I haven't. I've bought 2.5 litres, 5 bottles of 500 millilitres each. So I've put a bit more than a whole bottle through this one at the moment, probably about 650 millilitres so far. Now, the one thing you can tell with this, I don't know if you can see this, but it's quite clear there's no air in this. And this is sort of solid fluid through this pipe. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with that vacuum thing, but it doesn't work for me at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to nip this up now. I'm going to return to it and give it one more go, but I'm going to do all the others now. So what I should have done at this point is replace the fluid in the master cylinder and the ABS block, and the line all the way back to this point here, to this bleed nipple. And that's the longest line because it starts from the right-hand side of the car, it goes across to the left, down the left-hand side of the car, and then back across the subframe to this right-hand caliper. So I should have done the longest one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the other side at the back, and then I'll do the fronts and return to this one a bit later. Okie dokie, so I've done the rear left now, rear left brake, and this is the amount of fluid I put through. So I thought, just out of interest, I'd measure it. I hate this stuff, I really do. Okay, so 400 millilitres through that side. I think that should be enough. I can't tell if I've fully exchanged it. This is quite brown, but obviously it's got mixed in with it, the original stuff. So, I don't know. Obviously, I'm more concerned about the front anyway. The brake fluid types do mix, these particular ones do. So this is what's called a .4.1 fluid, and I believe, and it's compatible with .4 fluid, and you can mix it, although obviously by mixing it you will affect the boiling point temperature. There is another sort, and I'm blowed if I can remember what it's called, which I think it's silicon. Is it silicon-based brake fluid that is not compatible? And if you do put that in, you have to change the fluid completely throughout. Goodness only knows how you do that in a successful way and get rid of everything. I guess you have to basically pump it all out somehow. I don't know, use compressed air through the lines or something. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not doing it. That's the main thing. I suppose if you were building a car from scratch, then obviously it wouldn't be a problem. But anyway, I'm rambling here a bit. So, done that. I'm just going to go and have some lunch, and then I'll come back and do the front two calipers and, bleed those. That's it done. So, just to give you an idea, I used just a smidge over 2 litres of fresh fluid, brake fluid. Have I used enough? Have I used too much? Difficult to tell. The only thing I would say is that when I look at this reservoir now, this brake fluid is definitely paler than the original. I think if you go back and look at earlier in the video, you'll see that it's slightly darker than this. And the stuff coming out of the bleed pipe at the end of each bleed session was definitely paler. It was definitely a pale colour. So I think I've pumped out all the old stuff. I might have gone over the top, actually. I've got a feeling I've used more brake fluid than I needed to, but, I just want to make sure. So that's all the brakes done. I am going to fire the car up, even though it's on axle stands. I'll fire it up and check the pedal, but the pedal feels good at the moment, so without the servo assistance, so I think we're good. I may need to run it for a bit and then bleed them all again. So if I get time, I might just run it around the streets here because it's road legal, and then bleed the brakes again. But I'm fairly confident it's going to be good, because I didn't have a problem before until I started to notice the brake pedal going soft at the end of the last session at Brands Hatch. Yeah, but actually not at the end, about midway through the session, I noticed the pedal was softening a bit as I braked hard, and I was braking reasonably hard into Paddock Hill Bend. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I think it was due to heat, but I must admit I'm not sure. I could have got some caliper stickers, those temperature stickers, and checked the maximum temperature on the calipers, but I didn't. And I just thought the safest thing to do is to replace the brake fluid. Okay, so now we've got this done. Next thing I'm going to tackle is the removal of the battery box. I've got 40 minutes to do that because I've got to go and do something else this afternoon. So this is Sunday afternoon. I've still got quite a few days next week. Obviously, I really want the car to be ready by Wednesday because I want to pack the car in the trailer on Thursday and deal with any last minute issues. Okay, so far I've removed this, which is a piece of plastic that goes between the rear bumper and the battery box, which is just here. I was videoing the whole thing, but in the UK we had an alarm test, an emergency alarm test at 3 p.m. on Sunday. That just went off and it stopped the video. Stopped the video recording, so unfortunately I didn't get me unbolting this, but you know, it's nothing special, just a couple of bolts there, and then I need to put this one back into here, but I had to take those off so that I could get the rest of the plate off, so we'll put those ones back. No, we won't. What am I talking about? This is all coming out. No, we won't put those back at all. I'm leaving this cover in place. This is covering the charcoal filter, and rather than expose that, I think I'm going to leave that cover actually in place. This does mean that all of this is now exposed. This is why I was debating taking this off at all, because now if I go into a gravel trap, what I've seen what happens to other cars is they go into a gravel trap, the gravel jams up against the bumper and just tears the bumper off the back of the car. And that was one of the reasons why I was debating leaving the battery box in, but I think we'll do the same as everybody else does. I don't want to try and be clever and do things that other people aren't doing. They obviously have taken the battery box out for good reason, well, weight saving primarily, so I'm going to do the same. Something I forgot here, these blue pipes are clipped onto the side of the battery box. I'm going to have to remove the cover from the carbon filter here just temporarily, and then unclip the pipes. Right, I hadn't realised this. It's not the pipes that are connected to the box, it's the whole filter housing. So you can see it's bolted on here and here. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that. I'm running out of time, so I think this would be a good point to take a break and then go and I'll contact someone and ask them what they do about the locating the filter housing, the carbon filter body, when the battery box is removed. Okay, so I've had some guidance on the mounting of the carbon canister. Two different ways of doing it. one way Chris suggested was to cut down the battery box and leave part of it in place so that there's a mount for the canister. The second way that was suggested, and I can't remember who suggested this to me, but it was on the 116 driver forum, mount the canister on this chassis rail. So it would mean rotating the canister round, which means the pipes would have to be rearranged on the other side of the canister, just there where the pipes go in, and then bolt it up onto the chassis rail. I prefer that for the simple reason that if I want to try and keep the battery box in one piece, because if I later change my mind and decide I do want the battery box in, I'd like to have the option to put it back. So mounting it on the chassis rail sounds good. The only bit I'm not sure about is, I mean, I don't know what's inside these things, but I don't know if they're supposed to be mounted level like this, in this orientation. And if I rotate it 180 degrees, which I'm going to have to do to get these mount points up against the chassis rail, is that going to mess up things inside this canister? And even if it wouldn't mess it up if it was a new one where it's been running in this configuration for like the last 20 years or so, is that going to mess things up? So I think what I'm going to do for Silverstone this week is I'm going to leave the box in. The simple reason is that I've done the oil change, so that's all done. But I remembered that I've got to cut some bits off of the front inner wings to give me the minimum clearance under the car. I've now trimmed the plastic along here, this area here, as I said I would do, but that's not the issue. So this is my gauge, and if you look, it's this point here, it just won't go past that. So this is the bottom of the, I think it's the inner wheel liner, wheel arch liner. So what I'll do tomorrow is I think I'm going to remove this piece here, which is all broken anyway, actually, as it turns out, as you can see. I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to trim this so I've got the clearance. Now the other place that can give problems is the jacking point. So the jacking point is just there. You see it just there. Now that can give problems, and in fact under the current regulations you're permitted to remove it, but let's just see if I can get it's a bit tricky holding the phone, the camera, and doing this, but you can see that goes under there without a problem. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. So if we give that a push, you can see it goes under quite easily without any problems. So we haven't got a problem there, so it's just this inner wheel arch liner that we need to sort out. Okay, so this is the offending bit just here, and I guess this as well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off completely across there, and then I'm going to cut this across there somewhere. I seem to remember at Croft last year, a lot of cars failed scrutineering on height, and I remember walking down the garages and seeing people cutting around this area, so I suspect this is what they were cutting. Right, well that's done that. So you can see now, I'll show you how much I've taken off. That's the bit that came off of there. So, I don't know, about 10 or 15 mil, I reckon. And that should be good enough now to give me the clearance. Okay, that's done it. The only thing is this bit's broken. I think I need to do something to fix this across here. I think I've got some flat bits of plastic, or I can get a bit of aluminium and then just screw through here to hold this. In my naive sort of way, I'm keen to keep this bit of plastic because it might deflect the air so it doesn't hit this sharp ridge, but I don't know. I'm not sure it's going to make that much difference. Okay, so that's done. I think I might paint this black just to avoid any scrutineering type issues. Just I can't believe they're going to fail it because I've put a piece of plastic in there, but I don't want to draw attention to it, so I'll spray it black. I use my favourite yogurt pot, Tesco Greek yogurt. That's where that plastic came from. So good reuse of the yogurt pot there. So there it is, sprayed up. I used rather rough sandpaper on it, as you can see, to give it a bit of a key for the paint, but that won't matter. I reckon that's pretty good. You can't really see anything, you know, pretty well disguised, and as I say, it's only a bit of plastic. I doubt I'm going to fail scrutineering on that, but I quite like the effect, so that's good. Okay, moment of truth. So just a reminder, although I noticed in the Motorsport UK yearbook, the minimum ride height for cars, unless specified on a series basis, is 4 centimetres, but for our cars it's 65 mil, and this chock block is about 68 to the top, so if this will go under, we're good. And as you can see, it does, so that's good. We've already tested the middle jacking point, so let's go to the other side. See if I can hold the camera at the same time as rolling the thing under. Yeah, there you go. There's loads. Okay, so let's solve that problem. Now, something I've forgotten is that I've got to put these laser sponsor stickers where the number plate is. So I've added that to the list. So if I can avoid too much reflection, here's the list. So we've done oil and filter. We've done change brake fluid, although I want to bleed it again. We're not going to remove the battery box. Something else I found since I attempted that and put it all back together is the piece of aluminium I had to cover the hole. I've actually stolen a piece off the end of it, so it's not long enough anyway. So just as well I didn't get anywhere with that. Replace the number plates, that's what we're going to look at next. And I've got to get some fuel, both in the car and in some fuel cans that I've got. And we've sorted out the ground clearance. So yeah, only a couple more things to do. So these tyres, new tyres, have just arrived actually, just been delivered by Tuffnells. That's good. The only trouble is I haven't got any wheels to put them on. I thought my local BMW breaker had some suitable wheels. In fact, I thought he had some of these exactly the same as the ones I've got. This is called BMW Style 134. Trapezoidal, I think they're called. But he was telling me that these and all of this size, which is 7J by 16 with the five stud pattern for BMW, he said they go really quickly. I suppose that the all the 116 trophy people are consuming quite a lot of them. There are 46 cars on the grid for Silverstone. It's just phenomenal. 46 cars. It is going to be manic. Being competitive and keeping out of trouble, I reckon, is going to be quite a challenge. Now, the other thing is, the reason I ordered the new tyres, and I wanted to get them now, is because the weather forecast indicated that it might rain on Sunday. But I'm not going to be able to do anything about that. Now, I have got 2 new tyres on rims, which you can see just over there. So I will take those, and I'll probably use those on the front if it starts to rain. I plan to run with the scrub tyres if it doesn't rain, but I'll put the new ones on the front if it does. But unfortunately I won't be able to run a new set all round. So, bit of a challenge to my driving skills. So let me show you what I was going to do about the stickers. So you can see the stickers here. one for each front and back. What I've done is I've got a couple of blank number plates. So the plan is to stick the stickers on those, drill the holes in exactly the same position as the existing number plate. But before I do that, I've had a thought. Rather than do that right now, what I'm going to do is take the car out for a run around the streets so that I can then come back and check the brake bleeding again. Just bleed all the brakes once more. So I had about a 15-minute blast around the streets in it, and I've filled it up with fuel actually. I'm just looking now for any fluid leaks, but we're looking good. Everything seems to be very clear. So I'll move on to checking the brake bleed again. You might be interested in knowing how you jack one of these up, because you'd think, oh, jacking up a car, it's got to be easy. Because the ride height is so low, you have to do it in a particular sequence. So I'll do it now and I'll show you. So that's it. You lift the side from the back, the rear jacking point, get an axle stand under the front jacking point, then jack on the centre jacking point on the front subframe, get the other side axle stand in on the left hand side of the car, and then go to the back and jack it under the diff. You can just about get the jack in and get movement when it's tilted like that. If you want to take it higher, you have to do it in 2 stages. So you have to get it like this, then jack the back again, bring it up 1 setting on the axle stands, or maybe 2 settings, and then go to the front. So if only I had a lift, 2-post or 4-post lift, it would be a lot easier. But this is the sequence I have to go through each time. Getting it down is pretty much the reverse. Mistake I made when I very first jacked it up, when I got the suspension lowered, was I let it all the way down on I took both front axle stands out with the jack under the centre jacking point on the subframe, and when I let the jack down, the handle of the jack jammed into the front bumper, and I couldn't get the jack out. And so I then had to get another jack and jack it back up, and then get the jack out and then let it down. So yeah, this is the sequence you have to go through. Right, that's it, all done. So I've bled them all again. I think there might have been a tiny bit of air came out of the back ones. Anyway, the pedal seems really firm. So all good. Actually, on the test run, the pedal seemed fine, so I think we're good to go. One thing I was going to tell you about was that when you fill this, fill it really slowly, because of the strainer thing in there, it can overflow, and I did get it to overflow a bit, which meant that some of the went down behind this, and when I came out this morning there were drops of it on the floor. Now that is a real pain in the neck, because one of the things you want to do when you're racing is you want to be able to check the car quickly to see if you've got any form of fluid leak. And of course, if you've got spills and things, you can't do that. So you need to try and keep it as clean as you can, so you don't have to worry about, is the patch on the floor a spill or is it actually coming out of the car? Now, I said that's all I was going to do, but I've just remembered one other thing, and because I've got, well, today's Tuesday, so I've got Wednesday and part of Thursday in hand. I want to wash the car, which is a minor thing, but the other thing is the steering wheel is slightly turned to the right when you're going in a straight line. It's very minor, but I'd like to get that right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn the tow rod end things, say a quarter of a turn each side, to try and correct that problem, but obviously keep the wheels aligned the way they are. Because I've got so much time, I think I will string the car tomorrow, but I'd like to get just that correction done on the steering wheel. That's it. It's complete. You can see I've put the sponsor number plate things on, stickers. I've made the adjustment to straighten up the steering wheel. I think it's now Wednesday, quite late on Wednesday, so I'm not going to do any more today, but I think tomorrow morning what I'm going to do is quickly string the car just to check that where I've changed the steering wheel alignment, I haven't actually messed up the geometry on the front. I've spent about 3 hours today with the technical support people at AIM to sort out a problem with the overlay on my camera. So I've got this AIM Smarty Cam, which you can see in here, just there, and the brake indicator, it's like a bar graph sort of thing, red strip, I'm sure you've seen them. It wasn't working, and I knew that I was getting brake signals because if I put a display on my data logger, I can set up a display to show brake pressure, and it clearly shows the brake pressure. And also when I download the stats off of my data logger, it's got the brake pressure values in there. So I knew I was getting the signals from the ECU, and it was getting into my data logger, but it wasn't getting into the camera. I may have messed up, actually. It could be that I just forgot to push the final configuration with those settings in it. But anyway, when I got the guy from AIM, it's quite good, really. They do a remote control of your PC and check a load of stuff out. And they found another problem, which turns out it looks as though it's a software bug. So they've gone off to fix that. It's not a showstopper. It's just a problem with using the mini USB cable into the side of the camera when you've got a 5 gig Wi-Fi connection running. That's what it seems to be. Seems a bit far-fetched to me, but it's doing some really strange things, and he's taken a load of log information. He's gone off to try and fix that. Really helpful guy. I've phoned them twice now, and they're really good. I mean, I know you pay a lot for the AIM kit, but technical support is spot on. So can't thank them enough for that. So that's all done. Hopefully now I'm going to get a brake overlay on my display. I guess, yeah, stringing aside, I'm ready. So the next video I'll do will be at the test session on Friday. So I'm booked into a test session. We've got 4 slots, 3 30 minutes and 1 25 minutes. I'll do some. I'll try and do some recording there. I'm not very good at doing the recordings at the track. I must admit. I seem to, your mind is on so many other things. But I will try and get some recording done there. Okay. Hope this was useful, and I'll catch you all soon.